I guess he said he could? Yeah. Oh, okay, so it is 6 o'clock, and it's time to begin the city commission, coordination meeting that we have every week. And so I guess we'll begin with anything you might have, Jason, if you can hear us out there.
I can hear you, and I don't have anything this evening. Dennis and Jared may have some items that Ron wanted them to address, but from my perspective, Mayor, I don't have anything this evening.
Okay, excellent.
Mayor Dennis Marstall, Assistant City Manager. Just a couple things about the upcoming meetings. I don't know if we usually go through some of those about the joint city-county meeting, which is Thursday, March 18th. So that's coming up. And then we have the Intergovernmental Luncheon next Monday on March 22nd. If you need any RSVPs for either of those, we can work through Brendan, the clerk's office. Then the Chamber of Commerce is having Good Morning Manhattan on March 18th at 7:30 in the morning. And then if you want to be registered for the ITGA conference, it's a virtual conference this year, Tina in our office will be glad to get you registered for that. And so that conference will be virtual May 24th through the 26th of this year. So just a couple of updates for you all. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to go around. I got an update on the recent announcement about the Stimulus 2020 Act from the federal government. Did you want me to cover that now?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. As many of you heard, the President did sign, I can't think of it, the American Rescue Plan as it's known, last Thursday, I believe. And so there's been some initial information out. We've been working with the National League of Cities, trying to understand what it means. Overall, that package included $350 billion for local and state governments. And so the House Committee on Oversight put out an initial allocation spreadsheet among all the communities. The federal government is looking to distribute money directly from Treasury to communities over 50,000. And as of now, tentatively, we could be earmarked for up to $14 million for the city of Manhattan. And as they're doing this, again, this is not finalized, but this is some of the initial information that we're getting. The local governments will receive this distribution in 2 payments. The first payment should be in about 60 days, and the second payment will be in a year. So they are divvying this up over a 2-year process. And then the grant amounts, where they came up with this dollar amount, was calculated by using the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant HUD formula. And it also includes the population, poverty, and a housing instability rating or index for each community across the country. And so that's kind of the gist as we know it. We will know more about what are the reporting requirements, if there are some things that we need to do. I think I saw some initial information that we have to enter into a memorandum with Treasury to receive that money. And so, Mayor, we may be coming back to you and the Commission to do that resolution, or as it may be, agreement, understanding with them. But we'll have some more information. It's still coming out daily about how they're trying to finalize the actual allocation amount per each jurisdiction. But they are looking at communities over 50,000 getting direct distribution from the Treasury Department for that amount of money. And then again, trying to understand what strings attached, but generally it does highlight for lost revenue. And otherwise we haven't seen that much definition around any other strings attached. And so we will come back to you as we have more, so I anticipate that next week, or certainly within the next 2 weeks, we'll have additional information for you.
Okay, so by putting that term in there, loss of revenue, that means we can use it for a lot more than we normally could. Like, we got some shortfalls in transient guest tax distributions and things like that. So that's helpful and good to know.
So I even think if you talk about revenue, talking about even when we didn't have some of our recreation programs that did not generate revenue, how they would consider that. And again, we don't have an understanding yet of the full documentation or how we communicate with Department of Treasury about expenditures from this amount of money. So as we put that information together, again, I know we have at least 60 days from the initial distribution they want to do. And so we'll be back in touch.
Dennis?
Yes.
This is Commissioner Reddy. I think it's important also to see when we talk about transient guest tax, because I know there's a huge packet also for hospitality, and see if they're also getting a different share than the 14 million that the city might possibly be receiving, and also how this would play into the $275,000 that we used for the platforms, or the $100,000 for the HCV, I want to say HVAC.
HCW.
HCW,
Yeah,
one of those letters.
I know.
To see how we can, I guess, use those funds, because we're tapping into EcoDevo funds and hoping that we get that CARES money. But also, if the hotels and other businesses are getting it, to see how we can have a bigger discussion, maybe at the task force might be an appropriate place, to see how we can make sure that we're all using it appropriately and doing what we need to do with it, so somebody's not getting more from each of the entities, as far as just that money that might be allotted to the city. But I'm
Right.
glad they're thinking about this, and I think it's a great move, and I think it'll at least take care of some of the bleeding that's been happening.
Yes, and we do have the list that we originally worked from about what was eligible under the stimulus back in 2020. And so if there is opportunities to highlight more documentation for the platforms and other things, we do have that information. So we will look to capture as much as we can within those. We also have initial breakdown we received last week for the whole stimulus spending or package that was delivered, meaning the individual stimulus checks that are now flowing. And so we'll send you some information as well that kind of outlines, there is more money in there, like $85 billion for certain pension plan bailouts, but also there's additional PPP program that's available for small businesses and other businesses. And so we'll give you a little breakdown as we know it, as people are still going through the legislation to highlight what all the components are.
It's my understanding that the county will also get 14 million.
Correct.
So it seems to me that, we may want to coordinate with them about some of the recipients instead of some of them doubling the amount. And maybe that may be intentional in some cases, but not all. I don't know how it will play out. We don't know the rules yet either, so.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing that they have the health expenses from the health department, EMS and other things.
Sure,
But yeah, there'll definitely be an opportunity for some coordination for the overall benefit of the community.
yeah, good.
Otherwise, that's all I had for the commission tonight.
Okay, excellent. You have anything for us?
Only update I have is related to the strategic plan. We are pushing out the first round of public engagement to as many people as we can right now. It starts next week. We've had about over 120 individuals register to participate in one of the 4 virtual meetings. So really looking to folks to continue to our committees, the city commission and the city staff, and Vivian with our PIO is going to continue to push out that information so we can get as much participation as possible. That'll be one of the options for attending or for participating in the first round of public engagement, attending one of those 4 virtual meetings. We will also allow people to take in that first round of public engagement on the project website at their own pace if they can't make one of those meetings. And then, as I mentioned, there'll be some meeting in a box approaches where our committee members are going to be going out to those hard to reach groups and trying to have either virtual or, if possible, safe in-person small group meetings with the same content and asking those questions that will be asked at one of the 4 virtual meetings. So just wanted to give you all an update on that. Yeah, and that's engagemhk.org/crossroads if folks are interested to check that out.
So
Sure.
not all of them will be available publicly. I don't understand necessarily about in the box. That means you're going out to them and it's not
Yep.
transparent, right?
So a meeting in a box is going to be the same framework that any participant will see during a virtual meeting,
Okay,
and individuals can,
okay,
they'll be asked the same questions. We're going to provide our committee members the same questions so that we're asking the same thing, writing down the same inputs, collecting the same
Yeah.
type of information so that we can aggregate all that information. So that will be the meeting in a box approach. You could do it, as an example, a committee member could do it with a small group that they're a part of, like an organization. They could do it with friends and family members. It's an opportunity for them to reach out to people that they know so that they can participate but really reaching those hard to reach areas that they identified. They identified, over those 90 groups they're affiliated with, so that they can, if a group can't attend one of those virtual meetings, our committee members are going to be tasked with taking that meeting in a box and going to them, whether it be virtual or in person.
So Jared, this is Commissioner Reddy. I was thinking, I don't know if I heard you right. Did you say there was 100 of them for one of the meetings or 100 of them altogether?
120 total across the
For
four
all of the
meetings.
meetings, okay.
Our noon meeting right now on Monday is the one that has the most. There's about 54 people registered for that one. And then we have about 25 for the remaining ones. But we've been this last week is our biggest push to get people to sign up. A lot of people are still figuring out what they're going to be doing next week. So we're doing that push. We're on Pandora right now. We're on all of the Manhattan broadcasting radio stations, doing a Mercury ad, Collegian ad, all of our social media. We've had over 500 people register on our project website. So we have at least 500 people who have gone to our website and are interested in this process in some capacity. And we've sent them all direct communications as well, to try and pick one of those opportunities to participate in those virtual meetings. So we're hoping that starts ramping up this week and those numbers increase.
Sure. And are you filtering out if they're from the city of Manhattan or anything? Because you might, because I did see the scope, it's so broad as far as the rollout. Are you vetting to see if they are from Manhattan or if they're an alumni of anywhere around here or anything?
So those questions are part of our process, and they're part of the project website when you register. So we get information on whether they live within Manhattan city limits or not, what neighborhood they live in, age, race, ethnicity, if they work in Manhattan, or if they just or if they live in Manhattan, or both. Or we're getting that whole kind of spectrum of the individuals that we're reaching throughout the process.
Sounds good, thank you.
Is it appropriate for commissioners to view it on Monday? And I mean, I don't necessarily think it's appropriate to participate, but I would be interested in if it's going to be publicly viewed. I'd like to know that.
So these will not be broadcast.
Okay.
They are going, but any commissioner can attend any of the meetings. I just ask that only 2 of you or less attend one of them. So it's not an open meeting. But yeah, any commissioner can register on the project website for one of the 4 public meetings, and you can sit in and participate. You don't have to talk during it, but we encourage, during the breakout sessions for individuals to talk and share feedback. But, all 5 of you are encouraged, if you'd like to participate. Yes, yeah. Planning next is going to be aggregating and collecting all that information, and then we're going to be in front of you in April at a work session, giving you a summary of everything that we've heard thus far and heard during the first round of public engagement.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything.
Nothing? City, you have anything for us?
I did want to mention, noticed on the packet that consent item L, the dining room platform, we had it correct, the resolution number correct on the agenda, but in the packet, we had it labeled as B. The resolution letter C is correct. So, and you have it correct on your script tonight. And also, the HCW item is an item that was tabled. So I have it, the first item, first action on consent is to remove that item from the table, and then you can discuss items. That's all I have.
So do we need to take it off of the consent agenda?
Yeah, we'll do that before we do the consent agenda, we'll make a motion to take item O off the
Okay.
table so that we can
All right.
vote on it.
'Cause it's
We'll
on-
take care of
It's
that.
on the consent, I just wondered how to do that.
It can stay on the consent.
It's on the script, we're good.
Oh, okay, I haven't looked at that yet.
On the table to vote on it during the consent.
All right, Commissioner Reddy, feel free.
Sure. I don't know who this would go to, whether it's to Jared, Dennis, or Jason, are there any legislative items that we need to know about that's happening? Because everything's happening pretty rapid fire right now.
Legislatively, the one thing we're working on is at the federal level with some information from the Office of Management and Budget talking about the MSA, the Metropolitan Statistical Areas. And so we have the opportunity here within 3 days to provide some comment and feedback to the federal government about that actual consideration. And we've engaged with Senator Moran's office on that and some of our community partners. And so that's what we're working on this week. And then from the state legislature, we shared that same information with them just to make sure that they had the heads up. And otherwise, there's not any hearings for us to weigh in on for this week that we've heard of yet that would be on our legislative agenda. So we're looking more at the federal issue right now.
Senate Bill 13, which was the bill that was the transparency and property taxes, that did pass both chambers now, and I believe it's at the desk for the governor to sign. I haven't heard if it was signed though or not. So once that's signed, we'll be looking for feedback from the league and looking into that bill on any implications that it has for this budget cycle.
Okay. I'll be on the 10:30 league conference call tomorrow on the webinar to listen to more details about the funds from the American Rescue Plan. And I know they're discussing right now also about the governor's authority for the executive orders as well as the emergency order, and floating around May 26th or 28th as the date, and may or may not extend her authority for executive powers beyond March 31st. I don't know. I just got off the phone with Tom Hawk, and he was in session at that time trying to figure out what they're still thinking. So they're still in a hot debate, it looks like, on the floor right now. And I do, for the March 25th Douglas Center opening, I'm going to be there. I don't know if you need to know all the head counts so you understand how many commissioners are going to be there, but I do plan on attending that one. And I think that I'm really happy that we're doing that piece of it and completing it, actually. I'm thrilled that we're completing it. I don't know if there's anything else as far as what the Recovery Task Force discussion, if they have items for their next agenda. I know they wanted to talk to a few other officials, but where do you see that going, Dennis?
The conversation at the last Recovery Task Force meeting last week was talking about future agenda items. Still a little bit of conversation around some of the vaccines and just if there's going to be any changes. Certainly there was interest in what the City Commission is going to do tonight around the mask ordinance and how that relates to the local area. But really more of a conversation about how different businesses are addressing the relaxed order number 20 from Riley County. And we are finding that different businesses are maintaining some of the restrictions that were in place from the previous order, and others have chosen to relax, stay open, and increase their seating capacity and other things. And so just more of the conversation about how is the community as a whole addressing the changing health order. And so those are the two conversations: vaccines, the face mask ordinance, and then how businesses are looking at implementing their own procedures in the changing health order.
Sure. And Jared, I just want to know about the when the Diversity Task Force will be meeting again.
That is next Thursday, I believe, at 6 p.m. Let me double check that. We met with the co-chairs, and it will be March 25th. It'll actually be at 6:30 p.m. on March 25th. It will be Zoom, and it will be broadcast live on the City of Manhattan webpage, Facebook Live, and on Channel 3. So that'll be the next Equity and Inclusion Task Force.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to mention, you mentioned about that MSA. We did send a letter, it was in your packet, that the staff drafted up, and I did sign that and send it, and I was able to talk to Trent Amborst about it, because he was well aware of it and pushing that up at the state level. So I did have a discussion with him last week about that particular letter, so hopefully they won't mess us up on that. If it goes the wrong way, that's gonna have some bad consequences, I think.
I thought it was a great letter. Considered all kinds of possibilities and covered them well.
Yep, go ahead, Aaron.
I just have an update for the ATA. We met the day after our last legislative meeting, I think, back on the 3rd. So they've got some information. One, the token transit, so there's an app that is for ATA that people can use, and it's mostly, it can be used in various ways, but it's really key for distributing passes. Like if people are requesting, the social service agencies might be getting passes for groups of people. That token transit is now available for the ATA bus. Their cameras are being installed, and the other thing that they're learning is that originally there was a thought there wouldn't be more federal CARES dollars coming to them, but seems to be a revision of that thinking, and that there will be some coming to Kansas, and via Topeka will end up in Manhattan for this area from KDOT. So not sure how much, and it certainly won't be as much as last year, but there'll be some at least, and they're waiting to find out on that. And the MPO meeting's tomorrow, but I think it's been postponed for a month.
Yep, that's correct. Mark?
I don't have anything yet.
And Linda?
Well, I thought that, like I said, the MSA letter to Senator Moran was excellent. Covered a lot of ground and would have given him a lot of specific information to think about and carry forward. So it was a really good letter. The Flint Hills Regional Council will meet this Friday in the morning, and they're working, well, they had some news. There's going to be a new truck plaza at I-70 and K-99. You know where that gas station and quick shop used to be? Well, this is a 37-acre deal, and it includes they're going to break ground in 30 to 45 days. They're going to start, I think, with the gas station quick shop, but then they're going to have a cluster of other businesses there. They're going to be on rural water, and they're meeting with some of the CVB type people or economic development people around the region. And so I think it's a good place to promote. You know, we had wanted that gateway to the Flint Hills out here on 177. Because there's no water, that's never been successful. There's water on 99, and it's the rural water district, but that makes it a lot more, the potential is there, and there's someone who wants to develop it. Let's see. Well, they have big ideas. I don't know how, I assume it'll all play out. The regional council has, Christy Rodriguez and Jana Williams and Rachel, I forgot her last name, are just finishing the St. George and Ogden comprehensive plans. And if you're a community, you have to have one of those comprehensive plans in order to qualify for any kind of grant money and be taken seriously, that you have evaluated your community. And so so they're moving along on that. And as soon as each of the city councils approve it, which is this week, then they'll be taking it to the Riley County Commission. Christie is submitting, or has submitted, a grant to the Economic Development Administration they are an economic development, the regional council in the 7 counties, or maybe not all of them, are an economic development district. And they can attract grant money for things that the local, like a city or a county, can't do by themselves. So this one is going to be 3 years, and it would start April 1st. There's a grant, a match required, and so we'll be hustling to make sure we can come up with $70,000 over 3 years. That'll be our part, our challenge. And, let's see. There's more about it on the Flint Hills Regional Council website, and just Google Flint Hills Regional Council and it'll come up, but there's a work plan. They're also considering an Army Corps of Engineers funding, and they're just exploring it. But they have submitted a proposal to the National Park Service. And I know that Christie met with Ron Fear and maybe community development staff here, and there's quite a bit of interest in that as a link to what our Junction City, Wamego, Manhattan want to do with the river, or just get something started. We need a vision, and so that this is planning money. That's what we need, a vision. Let's see, we need to, I think they received CARES money also. I don't remember the amount exactly. We're having a special group pull together to brainstorm a strategy for making this region whole and sustainable, as far, I think, the regional council specifically. Let's see, but the goal is to continue to show value. There's even a Kansas Health Foundation funding opportunity, and so we're just looking at what can we do to be sustainable. But that MSA thing kind of interrupted everything at a lot of levels. I don't know that there's anything else about the regional council. Anyway, that's probably the biggest deal of what that caused. There was some legislation introduced, and it's gone through the House, and I don't think it's gone through the Senate, that would allow communities to sell the public squares, I guess is how I would say it, or public use spaces. And so I would want to approach that very carefully, and not just have open season on developers. So wouldn't encourage that at all at the moment, because it's not even through the legislature yet. But that's all. I plan to participate. I've said it several times in ITGA. I ought to be registered by now, as many times as I've said it.
Commissioner, we have you and Commissioner Reddy registered. Sorry if that.
Hooray,
clear.
okay, thank
If any other commissioners are interested,
you. Yeah, okay,
that registration's still open, but we did get you both registered.
Linda,
yes.
could you speak to anything that may have happened at Law Board?
Oh, well, there's an item on the in the newspaper tonight about the RCPD requesting a 2.48 increase in, I think it's more payroll, but that was just a proposal. There's not been any, that was the first pitch, so to speak. And they recognized one of the officers with an award, and escapes me just at the moment, but I don't think anything other major happened, other than the RCPD, Captain Kyle presented the first presentation of the budget that they're requesting, and that was pretty much it. We passed a couple of policies that are very routine. The director told us that the CALEA is currently examining 25% of their policies. And that's what they do, and it, instead of them getting really stale, there's an outside entity that says, hey, there have been some court cases, you need to update that particular policy. And they don't tell them what to put in it, but they help steer them in a certain, kind of bring things to their attention. So as soon as those 25% policies have been reviewed and the police administration has reviewed them, they'll be bringing those policies to the Law Board for change, to update them. I just think that's a good thing. you know, we talk about being one of the few police departments that are accredited with this CALEA. It's CALEA. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's just a good, and we were one of the first in the state to do it, but that would have been like 20 years ago, 15 years ago. So it's a very worthy thing, and we have kept that accreditation all these years. So it's, anyway, if you have any questions, I don't.
Well, I hope the law board scrutinizes that budget, so, because it'll have major impact on the city budget.
I think every one of the budgets that we held down to zero are going to be coming now and asking or pushing to, not that, we've told them we aren't gonna make it up, but from what was lost in the year 2020.
Yep.
But there's new pressure for well, actually, this is a budget for 2022 that we're working on now, so.
Right. But that'll be the problem. People will wanna try to
That's right.
play catch-up, and it's almost like, sorry, I hope we don't go down that route.
I think we've made that announcement everywhere. So,
Okay, just a quick update on, future meetings. I guess next week we'll have the pleasure of having a work session about the pavement management program. We'll get an update, I guess, from, Public Works, and that's always good, because we've got, quite a program going on, and, we can give everybody a heads up on where we're gonna grow the new, orange cones for the year, because that seems to be an ongoing project here, but, that's the only way to get ahead. And then the next legislative meeting, the one big item on that is the Parks and Rec fees that we, talked about a little bit. And so that should, probably, gather a whole bunch of, comments. That's gonna be an interesting one to try to sort out how we're gonna handle that, so put your thinking caps up on that one. I have just two items I wanna toss in. Tomorrow, the Corps of Engineers is gonna visit, the General Officer is gonna be here at 11 o'clock, tour the levee, and just, be sure he gets a good update on what we're doing, because we got a lot of money invested in that. And the only other thing that may be brought up is talk to him a little bit about Union Pacific Railroad, because as you're aware, that rail line causes a problem, and we can't do anything about it, and the only way that you can convince, Union Pacific to help us with that is through the federal government. So we wanna make them aware of that, because, last time we had a flood, the rail line backed up the water, and if it had some kind of passageway through it, or a bridge or something, it would have alleviated, part of the grief, so that needs to be one of them. And then the other point, last week I had a meeting with Vern at the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation, and we talked about a couple things. One had to do with public art, and of course he has the ability to provide the neighborhood of $200,000 to the city every year for public art, which the art board could, I'm sure, figure out a way to spend without too much trouble. And that would be, pure grant money. But right now, he has no method of funneling that to the city, because we don't have an art policy. And the city staff's working on that, and apparently it's not gonna get done till July, and I've tried to, poke the bear a little bit and say, how about we get it done faster, because, Vern's gonna have money available in April. And he'd be happy to send it in our direction.
I think you would have at least three people wanting to move that forward as fast as we can, because we've been talking about more than just this year. We've been talking about it for a few years, ever since the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation received those funds. So I think.
and the arts and humanities, I think is that.
Yep, and so I think everybody's, on board with that, but I know there's some, bureaucracy that has to get done. You only got so much time in a day, but, if we could speed that up a little bit, that would be outstanding. Then the other thing that, Vern and I discussed, and this was just discussion, he told me about this a couple years ago. It has to do with social services, and Vern says that, the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation is giving away $11 million a year. And he believes that we should get together and discuss with him a method of transferring the city's social services to the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation. And he thinks that the foundation can pick up the tax dollar amount that we're putting in it now. And that has significant budget implications, because that would alleviate about $400,000 out of our budget, if that's possible. And he talked to me about a plan to to gradually do that. So I'd like to flesh that out, and that's something maybe we wanna have him here and discuss at a future, discussion session, because I've always thought that was a great way to go. And the organizations would probably end up with more money through that system than through, the tax dollar method that we've got right now. And then that would free up funds for some other things, for the city to do. So I thought that was interesting, and, that foundation's been growing in leaps and bounds here over the years, so that's just a great asset for the city. So that's something for, just future discussion, and I'll work that out with him. Okay, I guess we got time for about a 20-minute break.
Actually, Mayor Butler, I did want to add, if you don't mind, 2 more calendar items. Is one, Commissioner Reddy did mention the Douglas Activity Center grand opening.
Yep.
Will be ribbon cutting on March 25th at 3:30 p.m. And so we do want to make sure we know how many city commissioners will be there. And if you can have the opportunity, we'll check with you to see if your schedules will allow you to be there. And then,
Yeah, I'm programmed. She sent me a note on that.
Look up.
already.
gotcha, okay,
Get an
three of you?
indication right here.
okay. Thursday, March 25th at 3:30 p.m. Double check that. Yep, 3:30 p.m. And it is called the Douglas Activity Center. And so beautiful facility that we look forward to getting open with the grand ribbon cutting. And then, Mayor, you had talked about some of the upcoming items on the City Commission agenda. I did want to point your attention to April 20th at your legislative meeting. That will be our restart of doing our UDO, or what is now being called the Manhattan Development Code, where we will start wading through all those sections to give you pieces of that code as we go forward. So we're going to start that again on April 20th during your legislative meeting as a discussion item, and then we'll look down the road. But traditionally, I understand we have had the last Tuesday in July with no meetings, or we use it for a continuation of a budget discussion. So right now, we'll ask you to check your July 27th calendars to see if you have plans to be in town or not. But right now, we have that just on hold for a budget meeting if needed. So if you have plans, or majority of the council commissioners will not be here, then we'll look to have that as a no meeting night. So we'll come back to you on that, but just want to put those with you. And then I'll check one more time if Deputy City Manager Jason Hilgers has anything he wants to add based upon the conversation so far. Jason?
No, thank you, Dennis. We're good. Mayor, if you're ready to take that break.
Okay, we'll see everybody back here at,
just 1 second.
7
We
p.m.
have-
sharp.
Just 1 second, when we have City County this Thursday? Yes. And we have intergovernmental on Monday, right?
Correct. Thursday, Joint City County 4 p.m. It's at the city, and it can be hybrid if you want to Zoom in. We'll do it that way, or in person here. And then, yes, Monday, March 22nd at noon will be virtual Intergovernmental Luncheon.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's take that break then, and we'll see you at 7.
When that Arts and Humanities Committee is really getting frustrated
Yeah, I talked
with the
to Karen
staff-
McCullough
with the
about